I guess um, the first thing we can get into is this Trump verdict. We're gonna get a little bit of the serious shit out the way, of course, because this isn't that serious, but it is serious. I like how they try to make this a public thing, but it kind of getting swept under the rug that he even got guilty on all the counts. Because I don't think they expected him to be guilty on all counts.
We've got a verdict. Ari Melber.
We are looking at count one, guilty. Count two, guilty. Count three, guilty. Count four, guilty. Count five, guilty. Those are the first 5 counts coming out of this jury, finding Donald J. Trump guilty on the first 5 felony counts. Reading the rest as we are getting it from our court reporters.
Starting with count 6.
Count 6, guilty. Count 7, guilty. Count 8, guilty. And you'll see on the screen we're tracking ahead. Count 9, guilty. Count 10, guilty. Count 11, guilty. Count 12, guilty. Count 13, guilty. Count 14.
You see how happy he is reading that shit? I caught him right on the grin, too. You see how happy he is reading this goddamn verdict? Everybody is happy that Trump is going to jail. But newsflash, Trump is going to jail, but he still get to become president.
14, guilty. Count 16, guilty. Count 17, guilty. Count 18, guilty. Count 19, guilty. Count 20, guilty. Count 21, guilty. Count 22, guilty. Count 23, guilty. Count 24, guilty. Count 25, guilty. Count 26, guilty. Count 27, we're seeing that on screen, guilty. Count 28, guilty. Those are the first 28 felony counts here as read by the jury. Count 29, guilty. Count 30, guilty. Count 31, guilty. Count 32, guilty. Count 33 and 34, guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
Rachel?
Listen, it's a unanimous jury verdict, unanimous on all counts. This is a definitive and, this is an irreducible verdict. He can appeal. I'm sure he will appeal. But this is everything that the prosecution asked for from a jury that, by all accounts, took this thing very, very seriously. We counted the deliberation hours down here. The test here for us as a country is not about what happens on appeal and is not about what happens in sentencing. The test for us now as a country is whether or not this former president and his allies will have succeeded in trying to undermine the rule of law so that people reject this as a legitimate function of the rule of law in our country. They have tried to delegitimize this judge. They have tried to delegitimize this court. They have tried to delegitimize these proceedings. They've even tried to delegitimize the laws that he was charged under. Those efforts are the test that we now have as a country. The people involved in bringing this case have been threatened and intimidated and had everything brought to bear on against them in a way that was designed to delegitimize this process in the eyes of the American people. It is now in the hands of the American people to decide if we will accept those efforts or whether we will stand by the rule of law and recognize this as a fair proceeding.
So here's my thing, right? This is the very first time that I've heard someone found guilty on 34 different fucking felonies, and they still running around outside. I just want y'all to understand what we are even talking about. The man is guilty on 34 different felony counts. Forget the fact that he's a former president. Just talk about him being as a regular man on the street. Why is he even still allowed to be on the street? That's what the question, that's the real question that no one even wants to ask. It's those little things right there. Those little things right there. When you say this challenges our country, right? Saying that this challenges our country. First of all, this don't challenge shit for me. It don't challenge nothing for me. For the simple fact that people are going to, protest with Trump, but there's also the split side, of course, that, is not. But when he does, or if he does go to jail, I think that's what she's referring to. She's referring to if he goes to jail, y'all thought them people rushing the White House was some bullshit. Wait till y'all see this nigga get in some handcuffs. It's gonna be riots in the street galore. Galore. It is going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be a sea of Trump voters running people over, banging on doors, breaking windows, looting, beating people up, jumping on buses, swinging bats, shooting. I'm telling you, it's going to be This is the civil war that America is afraid to realize is going to happen. Trump is going to literally cause the America's civil war. Okay? I hope everybody is following this part. This is the part in the history book where it's time to pay attention and get ready. I've been telling y'all about this for the last few pods now, and I keep saying it to implore it, and hopefully you get it too. Trump is going to become president whether we like it or not. The fact that, like I said, he is not even in jail yet, and he is going to be allowed to still run for president, should tell you quite a lot.
A wise woman said a few nights ago, 2 Mondays ago, that the rule of law is mortal. It needs to be protected. It isn't an abstract thing. And today, the people have names that we've all come to know. They're named Joshua Steinglass. They're named Alvin Bragg. They're named Susan Hoffinger.
Yeah. And there are other cases that are pending against Donald Trump as a criminal defendant. The difference is that we now know as a country what it is to put a former president on trial and to see that trial to fruition. That is something that was hypothetical before we ever had this guy as a former president. But now we have lived through it, and we know that the court process can work. A defendant who is a former president can be tried as a normal defendant. Again, the appeals process will go on. The sentencing process will go on, and those will all be pressure points. But the legal system in this country treats any former president as any citizen. We've seen that today, and this jury deserves to be thanked for their efforts and to be protected from the kinds of attacks and intimidation and recrimination that the president and his allies have tried to bring down on this process.
Let me just tell folks what's happened. What Ari said or Andrew said would happen has happened. Judge Merchan went juror to juror to juror. They all concurred with the verdict that Donald Trump is guilty on all 34 criminal counts, 34 felonies. And they have been thanked for their service, Ari.
Yeah, what you just reported and what Rachel was reminding us is actually existing in a microcosm within the trial because the jury is being polled, a jury of the peers of the defendant, as is his right. So that's legally something where the defense counsel is asked, do you want to make sure? They almost always, virtually always say yes. And so we're told, and we're looking at our notes here, pardon me for looking down, but our reporters are seeing the defendant, Donald Trump, is looking at the jury, is watching them as they are individually polled. But this is, as Rachel reminded us, someone who has been held in contempt for what he has said and done against other people and witnesses in the system. So I would call that a fairly intense moment, but good for the jury and good for the system to go right through it. Our reporters also telling us that while Trump has rarely shown emotion or changed his, quote, demeanor throughout the trial right now, he's only looking down. Eric Trump reportedly looking upset. And that's the scene in the room as they go through it.
Sure. When you say poll the jury, what you mean is individually, jurors by number will be asked, is this your verdict? And then they each have to answer orally. They have to say out loud, yes.
Yes, and that's the transparency. It's got to
be a scary moment for those individual jurors.
Right, as they're being stared down, but it's a transparency in our system. You said something so important. The system worked. We discussed earlier when we were awaiting this that it works not because of the result, but because of the process.
So when I hear shit like that, right? When I hear little shit like that, once again, this is telling me now the power that Donald Trump already has over the American people. The fact that he is going to be allowed to even ask on live television, I'm sure, one by one, each jury, did you say yes? Did you find me guilty? Did you find me guilty? Did you find me guilty? The fact that he's going to be able to do that and actually, personally ask these people, I should tell y'all something. He's going to literally show that, okay, this supporter, my supporters, get this person. Talk to that person. Talk to this person. Talk to that person. For me. Talk to that person for me. And by talking, they might not necessarily be talking about talking. They might actually do shit. That's the dangerous part about this. The fact that now the public is going to know who the jurors actually are, who the jury actually is that found him guilty, that puts them in a line of danger. That's the problem with this. It puts them in a huge line of danger. With their names being out, if their names are actually out there, like say for example, he gets to actually ask, hey, what is your name? Say your full name. People are going to start Googling. People are going to start looking up addresses. Next thing you know, oh, this jury member of the Trump verdict, their house was broken into. Or this member got robbed on the street. Or this one got beat up. This one got ran into at a restaurant. I'm telling you, it's going to be dumb shit like that that's going to be happening with this whole, he gets to actually ask each jury which one of y'all found me guilty. Which one of y'all niggas kicked me.
And that if it were an acquittal, we would be discussing that the system went forward. This is that system, and the judge and the bailiffs and others are there to protect the people and protect them in a physical sense as needed. But what we are hearing is that this jury heard the evidence, asked these questions. We know some of what was on their minds. We haven't heard from them other than the verdict, and now are confirming that this is their unanimous verdict. And so it's a matter of transparency that everyone sees each of them confirm what was officialized today, that Donald Trump is guilty, that all 12 jurors unanimously reached that decision through their reasoning with each other on all 34 counts.
Andrew.
Just to Rachel's point, there is something in every trial when the jury is polled that is sort of magical and fundamental to this country, where the jurors, each one stands up and counts as a citizen. And these are people who have everyday lives. They didn't ask to be here. And that moment where the country this is what the country stands for. This is what the rule of law means. And jurors take it so seriously. And yes, it can be scary because of it, but you know what? They did their job. And I think that this is a testament to our joining so many other democracies in the international community who have managed to hold political leaders to account. And we have shown that we can do that as well in a fair process where the defendant got extremely good counsel, had an incredibly fair process from this judge, in spite of his attacking the witnesses, the judge's family, the jurors. Everybody did their job. And finally, on a small bore, Alvin Bragg both personally was attacked. He was vilified for saying no to this case when he first took office, and people said, that how could he do that? And he said, after he said it wasn't ready. And this is a real vindication for him that he said, I'm going to bring it when it is ready and if it is ready. And then he brought it. And it's a real testament that he said, yes, now I think this case could be brought. And he did. And I think everyone understood from the moment David Pecker took that stand. I think a lot of people, including myself, reevaluated this case and said, you know what, I understand this is not just hush money. This was about fundamentally changing the 2016 election. That was the goal here. And clearly the jurors believed that.
Sue.
I'm also just now thinking about the E. Jean Carroll case when.
Before she said all that, just knowing that, right? Think about that, right? If this was the fact that y'all knew that he rigged the election, or should I say that y'all knew that the election was rigged in the first place, don't y'all think that this means that all the other fucking elections were rigged too? Gee, I wonder how that happened. Same way this one got rigged. Same way that all the rest of them get rigged. It has already been clear for I don't know how many years. We don't pick the damn president. We never have. That part has always been an illusion to us. The voting shit, that's always been an illusion. As far as the president part, now as far as mayors and other shit getting in office and certain, communities getting their own parties in office and things like that, that's different. But as far as the president of the United States of America, we ain't got shit to do with it. We don't got really shit to do with that at all. Like I said before, and I've demonstrated this, if the nigga ain't go to Harvard or Skull and Bone, he ain't even getting elected. Y'all see how they've been doing Bernie Sanders for a decade, to the point he just said, fuck it, I don't need to run no more. I don't need to run no damn more. And then Biden put him on the team supposedly, but we ain't heard shit from him since either. You see what I'm saying? This was the substitute teacher until Trump got back. For everybody to already be saying that Trump is going to be the next president should also tell y'all something. The fact that, like I just said, he has all that power to talk to each and every one of them juries, the fact that already he's harassed every single part of this investigation on him, from the judges and everything else. He's harassed everybody behind the scenes. And then you still gonna give him the power to talk to each and every one of the juries and ask if they gave him the guilty? Understand what we are saying. Trump already runs shit. Trump already runs it. And he knows it. That's why he's doing shit like this that he can do. That's why the nigga's not in jail right now. Think about that. That's why Trump ain't arrested right now. They know. The fucking government know. There's going to be a crazy situation when he actually has to go to jail. That's why they haven't arrested him. They trying to be safe for the American people to not arrest him right now. Don't y'all understand the power that is?
The judge at the end told the jurors that jury was anonymized, and he said, forget you were here, in substance. And now today the judge has actually said that they can discuss the case if they like. The choice is theirs, but they no longer are barred from discussing it. And he's actually also asked to meet with them to discuss their work, not to discuss the case, but to discuss their work. So we don't know what time these jurors are going to get out of the building tonight, but he's going to sit down with them. And then after that, I imagine they're going to hear from pretty much every reporter that has been covering this. Hundreds of reporters will descend on them to try and get them to talk about the inner workings of that jury room.
Is Vaughn Hilliard still with us? Vaughn, just tell me
hey,
what
Nicole.
I think what's going on down there.
Yeah, I think part of this is what is going to take place from here on out. We're 5 months from the November election, and we talked about what a guilty verdict could mean to the stakes of this election. Donald Trump is repeatedly called November 5th the most important day in American history. That is Election Day coming up. And for him, this only increases the stakes. Number one, these are state charges here. We do not know what his sentence will be. If he'll just be fine, probation, or whether he will be facing jail time. That is going to be the determination of Judge Merchan. And when you look at the election, of course, the expectation.
You hear that? They're pretty much fucking telling you. They literally just told you he's not going to face jail time. If you ain't read between the lines right there. This is all up to the judge if he's going to face jail time, if he's going to be on probation, so on and so forth. Not even he's definitely going to jail, being guilty of 34 different fucking felony accounts and rigging an entire presidential election. You mean to tell me that it's in consideration for him to be on probation? I guess.
Expectation is that if you were to win the White House, that prison sentence, if he were to get one, would be suspended or whatever the punishment is here. But for Donald Trump, he has already sent out a fundraising video in the last 24 hours to his supporters that they were going to be throwing him in jail here in New York. And so for him, he has every intention of using this to his a political advantage to the extent he can. And I think the first statement to come from any of his family members since this verdict was issued, I think, is an example of that. That would be Don Jr., who was not here at the courthouse today. He was here yesterday. Eric Trump was inside the courtroom, currently still is. And I just want to read for you Don Jr.'s tweet, if I could. Quote, guilty on all counts. The Democrats have succeeded in their years-long attempt to turn America into a third world expletive. November 5 is our last chance to save it. I read that last line. November 5 is our last chance to save it, because Donald Trump himself on the campaign trail has repeatedly suggested that the end of America is near if they does not take back the White House. From our team of reporters and they say Donald Trump,
you fucking heard it on live television. The end of America is possibly near if he don't win the election and go to jail. If you didn't hear it.
Long attempt to turn America into a third world expletive. November 5 is our last chance to save it. I read that last line. November 5 is our last chance to save it, because Donald Trump himself on the campaign trail has repeatedly suggested that the end of America is near if they does not take back the White House.
The end of America is near if he doesn't take back the White House. Think about that, y'all. I can't say it no more. I can't say it anymore. And any more clearer. It can't be put no more clear as day to y'all. That's it. Like, I know I'm being funny, but this shit is over. It's over. It's over. Enjoy it while it lasts. It's over. America, the Civil War is coming. It is coming. Whether we like it or not. Open move by then, but.
From our team of reporters and they say Donald Trump, the defendant, has been seated inside of that courtroom, stoic, stone-faced. He looked at each of the jurors as they walked out, all 12 of those New Yorkers, as they walked out of the courtroom. This is somebody who is still seated in a straightforward position, understanding the political stakes now that he has been found guilty of these 34 felony counts here in New York.
Okay. So, like I said, if you don't understand what's going on right now, maybe it just ain't your time to understand it.